So, welcome back to Valerie Monroe and Bookwormy reading Down the Swale. Hello, everybody. So glad you're back. So glad you are enjoying this tasty book. I don't really think you'd say the book was tasty. I think the book is adventurous. I think all books are tasty. All right, listen, we have to get to the point. The last time we were together, do you remember what Brogden saw in the swale? I do. Do you see me raising my hands? You don't have any hands, but Bookwormy, what do you remember about what Brogden saw in the swale? He saw a gnome. I know. All right, could you sit down here for a moment? Sure thing. Can you imagine seeing a gnome? I mean, that is pretty exciting. That is a rare occurrence. And so we're going to pick up where Brogden had just seen the gnome. And if you remember, the gnome was stuck between two rocks. His little boat was stuck, and Brogden was watching him from the side of the swale. Well, isn't this just fine, declared the gnome. He stood up and without success tried to shove off by pushing on the rock to the right. With considerable exertion, he tried the same thing with the rock to the left. But that proved no better. Defeated, he flopped down on the bench inside the basket canoe and began muttering to himself. Not good. Not good at all. Never going to make it on time. Going to lose my job and on the first day. The poor gnome looked so distraught that Brogden felt sorry for him and called out, "Ahoy there!" "What? Who's there?" The startled gnome spun all around, searching for the source of the voice. "Over here!" Brogden waved and scrambled down from the rock wall to the bank of the swale. "Oh, not good, not good." The gnome's eyes darted from Brogden to a small rectangular brown box which sat on the bottom of the basket canoe. "Oh, no, it's not good," Brogden nodded in agreement, "but I can help you get moving again. I'll be there in a jiff." "No!" The gnome lifted his hand forcefully to halt Brogden, who already had one foot in the swale. "Don't come any further." "It's no trouble at all," Brogden said, smiling. Both of his feet were in the swale. The water tickled his ankles as it flowed by. "I can do it myself," the gnome insisted. "You see, I'm a delivery gnome. Up until today, I've been on the tunnel dispatch. But an order came in from Lowland Lakeside, and Gordon was feeling poorly, so I volunteered for the water route. Pays more, too. And with the little one on the way, I can certainly use the money." "Little one?" Brogden asked, unable to imagine what a newborn gnome looked like. "Any day now," the gnome replied, throwing back his shoulders with pride. And then he seemed to recall the situation and snapped back. "I must get moving. Don't want to be fired," he said. He stood up and rocked the basket canoe from side to side. His face turned a deep scarlet, and beads of sweat began to run down his cheeks, but he continued undaunted. Brogden observed him with a mixture of curiosity and helplessness. Clearly, the gnome was dead set against accepting any assistance. "Oh, I'm spent," the gnome finally called out after several minutes of trying. In the next breath, he burst into tears. "I'm ruined. I am going to be fired. I'll be placed on the list of banned and disgraced dispatchers." He paused, thinking, and his face brightened for a moment. "Well, perhaps I can still get a job as a packager. Oh, but with the little one coming, oh dear, he muttered. "I'm coming out to help you, and that's final," Brogden declared. "Stand on." The gnome sat instead, picked up the wooden box, placed it on his lap, and wrapped his arms firmly around it. "Okay, then," he said, "but a shove off is all. You may not under any circumstances touch this box." "Why would I want your box?" Brogden called out. He was now almost up upon the basket canoe. "What is it you think we delivery gnomes deliver?" He stared in Brogden in disbelief. "Geez, I thought everyone knew." He put his finger to his lips and looked nervously from side to side to be sure that no one was listening. "It's treasure," he whispered. Really, Brogden replied. He was at the basket canoe now, and he gave a great shove backwards on its bow. Didn't give it all. Oh dear, you can't do it either, the gnome wailed. I am ruined. Now just hold still, Brogden instructed. I'm going to push as hard as I can to back you out. Once you're clear, steer hard to the left so your canoe doesn't slip back in. As Brogden was giving the instructions, a cloud moved in front of the sun, and the sky darkened to a slate gray. The gnome, still gripping the box, squinted as he looked upward. We better hurry, he warned. Looks like a shower's on the way. Brogden shot a wary eye at the sky. Oh, let's hope not, he said. A swale can be a dangerous place in a storm. Get ready to steer. Once again, Brogden put his hands on the front of the basket canoe and dug his heels into the bottom of the swale. The water flowed around his shins as he pushed forward. Push, yelled the gnome. Brogden pushed. He pushed until he felt the muscles in his arms and legs stretching and burning like fire. That's a lot of pushing. However, when at last the basket canoe finally began to wiggle slightly, his feet began to lose their grip on the bottom of the swale. Push harder, hollered the gnome again, and Brogden began to realize the gnome was more than a little bossy. A clap of thunder drowned out the gnome's shouts, and it rumbled around Lake Oaxaca before echoing away. The resounding eeriness sent shivers down Brogden's spine. There's my sound effects. Hurry, hurry, the gnome pleaded. A jagged streak of lightning was quickly followed by another clap of thunder, closer and louder. Better put our umbrella up. And then from far off, Aunt Gladys began calling, Brogden! Brogden! She always called for him when a storm started up. Both she and Aunt Hazel liked knowing where he was. Most of all, they liked knowing he was not in the swale, which is why he didn't answer. You're going to have to help me, Brogden told the gnome. Stand up and shove off the rocks while I push from behind. No! The gnome refused. He said firmly, I am not letting go of this chest. And that's where we'll stop for today. Boy, I wish that gnome was a little more cooperative, don't you? See you next time for more of Down the Swale.